it was just like the crash that never ended. It was just like the slow,
Yeah.
you know, slope that you could see everything happen in slow motion, but there's nothing you could do about it. I was like, bingo. If I would have just maintained relationships with everyone.
If you know everything that you know now, what do you wish that you knew 20 years ago? Welcome back to Glennda's Gurus. Today, I am so excited because I have Ricky Carruth. Now, Ricky and I have never ever met actually, but Ricky has been a huge influence in the real estate space, somebody that I have watched for a long time and am so excited has agreed to be here. So, Ricky, welcome.
It's an honor to be one of your gurus.
Well, you are definitely uh you are definitely fit the bill for the guru.
Mm.
You kind of just give us like a brief introduction, like how did you move into because you're really in the investment, the coaching,
Mm.
running your real estate company.
Mm.
It's not like you're in the septic tank field every day. So kind of
Mm.
talk to us a little bit about you.
Yeah, no. So I got in real estate when I was 20. It was 2002, and there was nothing that we have now. There was no Zillow, there was no social media, anything, and we barely had MLS. What was the year MLS actually came into play? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I got into business in 1992, but
Yeah,
and I still had a book.
right. So when did you start using MLS? Was it late
Yeah.
90s or was
Yeah,
it
I
early?
want to say it was within 2 years.
Oh, okay, so like mid 90s.
Yeah.
Got it. So anyway, you had to really build your business like it was even like the old fashioned way then, like to make calls and door knock and postcards and stuff like that. Email was kind of like this new this new thing back then. But anyway, long story short, the market blew up. And things, it was a lot similar to what we saw in 2021, just multiple offers and more than list price and nothing on the market. And that was kind of the lead up to the big crash, of course. Well, I was new. I was in my 20s and I made so much money during that time because I was making a lot on commissions, and I would take the commissions and I would flip houses because you could just throw a rock and hit and buy any house, flip it and make a good 50 to 100,000 the next day. And so I was taking out interest only loans to just flip properties and basically borrowing just about all of it. And that was a really bad move because when the house of cards fell, I was sitting on about $1.5 million worth of debt, and I couldn't flip the houses. It was like a switch just flipped overnight. And so I got rid of a lot of them for exactly what I owed and got out from under them. And then had to foreclose on a handful of them, lost everything. And everybody was saying, just give it 2 years. Everything will come back. Just give it a year or two, give it a year or two. Well, 2 years went by and it's like, just give it two more years. And a couple years went by. And it's like, give it another couple years. It was just like the crash that never ended. It was just like the slow,
Yeah.
you know, slope that you could see everything happen in slow motion, but there's nothing you could do about it.
Right.
So I had savings, but I depleted all that trying to just save my empire I built, and just ended up flat broke, bankrupt. And I went back to roofing houses. I worked on an oil rig for a year. I was serving tables, and I was actually sleeping in my car, and I was sleeping on people's couches. Like, I didn't have anything. The only two bills I kept were my cell phone and my license. I didn't let my license go. I kept paying my yearly dues and my MLS dues and all that. Um, and I didn't let my cell phone go. I didn't want to lose my number. Like I didn't pay for car insurance. Like, my friend gave me their car. It was this beat up 1980s Ford Contour. I'll never forget it. I had to ride the brakes so there was some kind of lights on the back every time I passed a cop. I put a boom box in the back so there was some kind of music. I had to get in through the passenger door. It was one of those situations. And anyway, it was a far cry from right before I had that. I had a Cadillac CTSV and a Hummer. Right, I had all these cars and houses and all that. I'm like, I'm a real estate mogul. Like, I'm done with life. And then everything crashed and burned. So what I learned through that was that, with that first go around, I didn't really try to create relationships or continue relationships. I could make 10 phone calls and find somebody that wanted to sell to make 100,000 today. Out of 10 people, somebody wanted to make 100 grand or 200 grand, and I'd sell their property like that, make the money, and then they weren't going to rebuy into that market 200,000 more than what they just sold for. So they kind of rode off into the sunset. They didn't really, you know, there wasn't any relationship that was that they wanted to have with me moving forward. They took their money and ran, and I could just make 10 more calls and make another 30 grand. So I didn't really have a need to create relationships either, and here I'm as a new agent thinking this is how this is it. Like, this is how it's
Right.
done. And so then when I lost everything, I realized, man, if I would have created the relationships, and that didn't hit me until I got back in the business, because I watched MLS and I realized some of my clients that bought, before I got out of the business, were still buying and selling at the bottom,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, because they were selling their bad assets and buying great assets.
Right.
And I was like, bingo. If I would have just maintained relationships with everyone. And so that's when it hit me, like, how to succeed in the business and have a business that never really can be taken out by the market. It can fluctuate, but it can't be taken out. And
That's so true.
you only got to tell me something one time, and I got it. So when I got in 2008, I got laid off from the oil rig, and I was kind of forced back into real estate. And luckily, I was already dabbling with it, and I got 2 condos under contract pretty quickly. I remember a week before they closed on the same day, and a week before they closed, I had to borrow $500 from my dad just to make it through that next week, just for food and gas and stuff, to get to those closings. And then when I closed on those deals, it was like 40 grand. And then that year, 2008, I made like 80 something thousand, which was twice what I was making on the oil rig. And I was like, oh my God, because I didn't know if I'd ever be an agent again. And then I
Right.
was like, I'm not going to take this for granted. I'm going to respect. I'm going, like, this is like, losing everything was the best thing that happened to me, because it made me really respect, what a privilege it is to be in the business and have some success, because so few people do, honestly. So yeah, no, and from there, I just took what I learned and I built up to 100 deals a year, single agent. I tried to do a team at one point. It was it wasn't my thing, agents coming in, learn everything and leave, or they hang around and suck me dry, all the energy out of my soul, and then, take time away from my business, which is making me the money. I mean, people that don't realize, I was talking to a person yesterday, she wants to build a team. I'm like, you're going to lose money for the first couple of years, and then maybe it'll get to where it's profitable, and then you can kind of keep building. But you're creating a second full-time job. You're a full-time agent now. You're going to be a full-time team leader. Now you have 2 full-time jobs. You're going to lose money for a little while to try to get it going. As long as you're willing to go through that, then you're good. She's like, no, I don't want to go through that. Whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, I stayed a single agent, got to where I was selling 100 properties a year, which was my goal, was to make $1 million. I did that 8 years in a row, from 2014 to 2021. And I was the number 1 Remax agent in Alabama for 3 different years. Top 5 the whole time. Number 1 in my county out of all agents and teams. And then last year, so in 2017 was the first year I made $1 million. And I was like, in January 1st clicked, and I was like, I went from $1 million to now a 0. And
Right.
now I have to climb this $1 million mountain again. And
Right.
it's a lot. And I knew how much work that was, because I just did it.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, this isn't what I signed up for, really. I thought it was going to get easier, when I got to this level. And that's when I kind of realized, like, you're only good as your last sale, in terms of you got to go put the work in and make another sale and another sale and another sale. And that's when I kind of was like, this might not be for me long term. Like, this, I'm kind of getting a little bored with this, burnout kind of, because at that point I was doing it for like 18, 19 years, just solid showings, listing appointments, calls, the whole 9 yards. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go share my story and the way that I built the business, focused around relationships over transactions. And, with my weekly email and my scripts and all that, I'm going to share all that with as many agents as I can and build a business out of that. And so that's what I started doing. I I did a couple speeches, I wrote a couple books, and I started just spreading, my message on social and stuff like that. And it really took off. And nothing went completely viral, but it was just a really nice, steady, slow growth, and that's been since 2016. So a good 6, 7 years. And through that, I kind of decided I'm just going to give all this away for free. So I kind of became the world's first like legit free, coach, and still doing it to this day. I haven't charged for a workshop, like an in-person workshop last year, which went really good. But I'm still doing, I talk to agents one-on-one all the time. I do a lot of group stuff. I do trainings every week just for the world. Um, and so last year I was like done with production. And I was looking at my phone and cringing every time clients were calling. And that's kind of the red flag.
Yeah.
It's time to transition into something else. And then I kind of position my dad because he still wants to sell, still loves to sell. So I just position him to take over that day to day listings and sales where I can do what I want to do, which is this kind of stuff, coaching, speaking, writing, stuff of that nature. So kind of where we are.
I love it. I love it. So I've got a couple questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most excited about right now? Like right now,
Hmm.
what in Ricky's world are you most excited about?
Personally, or like just for the industry?
Maybe both. I'd love to
Yeah.
know
So,
both.
so for the industry, I'm really excited about where the market is, because I've been doing this, went through the last crash. We had the oil spill down here, which was a mini recession in 2010. We had the pandemic, which was kind of a little blip where, we kind of had a retraction of pending deals and transactions for a moment. And I knew what was going to happen with that. And I know what's going to happen with this. Every time the market retracts the way it has in terms of the number of transactions, it's just gearing up for this massive explosion on the back end. When's it going to happen? Nobody knows, but it's going to happen.
Right.
And this next one is going to be more than anyone can imagine because of a couple reasons. Number one, there's people don't realize the birth rates in 1990 spiked, really high. Not as high as baby boomers, but higher, way higher than the last say 15 to 20 years before that. So we have this just massive amount of 33-year-olds this year. And that those birth rates stay the same for a good 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's just people turning 33. So you got 15 to 20 years of 33-year-olds at a massive level who, by the way, is the average starting average age of a first-time home buyer. And these people want to own homes because they've gotten to a point where they've been renting for a while. The millennial generation, the millennials, and they've been renting, and what they're seeing is they're building someone else's equity. Rents keep going up every year, and they're thinking, I want to own a home now. I'm getting to that age, and I want to have my own piece. I want to own something, and we have record amount of these people. So for the next 20 years, we got record amount, a lot higher than the last couple of decades of 33-year-olds, but they're going to turn 34 the next year. 35 the next year, 36. So we've got decades and decades and decades of these first-time home buyers coming into the market. It's remarkable. But what I find even more remarkable are the amount of people that are sitting in their homes with these what they call golden handcuffs that can't really move because they don't want to double their mortgage rate, but they really, really want to, right? They're sitting in their home and they're like, we need more room.
Right.
Like I know a guy I know at the bank. They had triplets. Like they bought their house in 2019, and it was their dream home. But then they, out of the blue, had triplets a couple years later. Well, they're sitting in what they thought was their dream home,
Right.
but it's a 4 bedroom, and they need a 5 bedroom now. The triplets are getting older, and they need that extra room, but they can't move. So they're like just itching, right? And I talked to so many people, agents who own homes that really want to move, but they don't. It's not a good financial move for them to double their mortgage rate. There's a record amount, I believe, of people that want to upgrade that are sitting there. It's just building every day, building and building and building. So you got all this demand from first-time home buyers and existing homeowners that are just dying to buy a home. And it's
Right.
just grow, and the longer rates stay high, the bigger this group of people are that want to buy a house. So when this rubber band pops, it's just I think 2021 was like a little warm up round to what we're gonna see. And but what's going to happen is the trade up seller is going to put their home on the market, but then they're going to take a house off the market. So that's going to be a net even for active listings. It's going to be a tick up for new listings, but net even for active listings. Then the first time home buyer is going to come in and take a home off the market without adding a home to the market. So that's a net negative for active listings. So
Right.
what we're going to see is new listings spike, active listings drop, but number of transactions skyrocket.
I
And that's what
love
I'm
it.
excited. That's what I'm excited for, as far as the industry is concerned. For me, I'm just excited to be kind of free from the everyday, you know, golden handcuffs of clients calling me and me being at people's beck and call and kind of doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And I'm really focused on, you know, increasing my income through all the different channels of income that I have, but then taking that income and buying a rental property a month is kind of my goal for the next 5 years. I've got about 30 to 40, about 34, 35 properties now. And so I'll have about 100 at that time.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so my goal, my thing is if they're worth a half a mil, that's 50 million worth. And then I take another 20 years and pay it all off, it's going to more than double in value during that 20 years. So now I'm sitting on 100 to 150 million worth of real estate paid off. Just local single family homes,
Yeah.
duplexes, fourplexes, commercial, small commercial stuff. So that's kind of what I'm focused on is like helping agents, right? Because the whole goal of my free coaching is to reduce the failure rate in the industry, one agent at a time, which we're doing. It's happening. I get messages all the time. So continue that, continue building the brand, build ancillary businesses from the brand, and then take the money and buy rental properties, you know?
I love it. I love it. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? You've done such a great job of kind of encapsulating what you're doing. I mean, I guess I could ask you, uh, what would you tell yourself 20 years ago? If you know everything that you know now, what do you wish that you knew 20 years ago?
Yeah.
One thing,
Yeah. One thing.
just one.
Hmm. There's probably a couple of equal things. It'd be hard to choose. Okay, that's the one. But I guess the biggest thing 20 years ago was right before the crash. Let's say this is 2023, so '03. So '03, I sold my last property in February of '05. I sold zero properties between February of '05 and May of 2008. There was zero properties, zero closings, right?
Wow.
So '03 was kind of the breakout year. '04 was a really, good year. We had this thing called Hurricane Ivan that hit September of '04, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. That was kind of when the market was like peaking out, and then everything kind of started to dwindle. So I'm just going. You said 20 years, so like I'm thinking exactly 20 years ago, what was happening? What would I
Yeah.
have told myself?
Yeah.
And I think what I've told myself in that position was that closings happen every day, regardless of market conditions. You see, back then, I was still under this impression, as many many agents are, and this is one of my big messages to agents, is that your business isn't the success of your business isn't correlated to the market, because a lot of agents believe that it is. The less experienced agents, and a lot of experienced agents kind of believe this, honestly, that when the market's down, your business is down. It can fluctuate, but it can never take you out, because like right now, for example, okay, we're at the 4.3 million mark. We'll see where we end up on the number of transactions this year in the country for existing home sales. In 2008, we had 4.12 or something like that million transactions in the US. Well, 2008, I would fear to say was the point of, I would say, the lowest that demand can get. There were 4 million listings and we had 4 million transactions. Now we have 4 million transactions, but we have 600,000 listings. And my thinking really is that even with interest rates higher, if we had more inventory, we would have more transactions. I
Yeah.
believe, but that's speculative. But my point is that I believe that we're down to the bare minimum of demand. I think right now we're down to only people who have to buy and investors like myself. Like investors buy no matter what. They're going to, I'm buying now. If the market goes down, I'll buy. And as the market goes up, I'll buy. So investors buy no matter what the market's doing. And then you've got the consumers. The only people buying and selling right now who are consumers are people that have to, right? For the
Right.
most part,
Yeah.
95% of them are the ones that have to. So we're down to the bare minimum of the number of transactions, in my opinion. I mean, could it go a little lower? Maybe a little lower, but we're getting close to just rock bottom. It's not going to go any lower because people that have to buy and sell don't care what prices or interest rates are. They have to do this.
That's right.
So I didn't realize all this at the time. And so I would have went back and said, listen, young Rick, like your business isn't correlated to the market. Like there's still going to be 4 million transactions at the lowest point. Don't, get out of the business. Realize that the market can fluctuate your business and take you from 50 deals to 35 deals, but it's never going to take you to zero unless that's what you believe.
Right.
And that's
Unless you
what I
stop working.
believed. Yeah, well, a lot of agents slow down with the market.
Right.
The market slows down, so they start slowing down. They quit
Right.
calling. They're like, what's the point? Nobody's doing anything. So what's the point of me even trying? It's like, but the point is not to do the deals. The point is to create those relationships for when the next rubber band pops. It's like right now, I'm coaching a lot of agents and they're just so focused on this year, closing deals and how they can get more deals and stuff. And I'm like, listen, because they're worried that their business is down from last year. I'm like, if you're keeping your head above water right now, that's number one, a big win. And number two, if you're keeping your head above water financially with deals closing every month, maybe it's not, what it was last year, but if you can maintain that, but then double your database, in the meantime, all the people, they're like, what do I do with this seller who says they want to move, but interest rates are too high and they couldn't even find anything if interest rates were better? I say, that's gold. If you can stack up, let's just say 1,000 of those over the next year, man, your business will triple in the next, 13 months when interest rates drop a little and this whole thing just goes boom.
Yeah.
Because interest rates are going to lag inflation. And if you look at inflation, it went from 9 last year. It's like almost a straight line, down to 3. And rates are still up at the 7 range. And interest rates normally lag it. It's going to, they're coming down. It's just a matter of when. We got election year coming up. It's going to be fun. Like we'll see what happens. But yeah, like you should be so excited to talk to those people and save them for a rainy day. Meanwhile, see, that's not your buyer right now or seller because they don't have to do anything.
Right.
So you got to remember the only people doing stuff now are people that have to.
Right.
And I just didn't realize all this back then. And if I would have known that back then, I could have continued. But the real answer is I wouldn't have told my younger self anything because then I wouldn't have lost it all and like took those hard lessons and been able to kind of like, rebuild the way that I did. You know what I mean?
Right. You learn so much more from your failures than you do from your successes.
You know what? When it happened, I was in my mid 20s. Okay. And I really what really took me down was the flipping.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, on the commission side, I would have ended up getting out of the business anyway, I believe. I just wouldn't have like foreclosed on stuff and went bankrupt. I would have just went to zero and just got out probably because I still didn't realize like how to sell in any market. But I was in my mid 20s and I was sitting next to people who were in their mid 40s, mid 50s, and even mid 60s who went through the same thing I did. They were flipping, they lost everything and had to start all over in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And at the time, I realized I was like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I get to learn this lesson in my mid 20s versus in my 40s, 50s, and 60s, like those guys. And now I can rebuild where that doesn't happen to me later. Have you ever read the book Outliers?
I have.
You know, the year that you're born, you know, like he takes it to the year that you're born and how everything plays out. And he did the whole Bill Gates thing and how he was born and like how he was just the age where the computer revolution was happening and stuff like that. It's kind of like my story, you know, born in 81, set me up perfectly to go through that hard lesson of the 2008 thing in my mid 20s where I could rebuild when I was still in my, you know, late 20s, early 30s. You know, that book Outliers is amazing when you really kind of compare it to your own life and kind of like
Right.
things that have happened, you know.
And you look
But
back and it was the best worst case scenario for you
hmm hmm
because you're exactly right. You were in your 20s going through that so early gave you the opportunity to learn the lesson and rebuild that a life that was so much stronger. Whereas that person who was 60 and lost everything
hmm
is struggling. And it's
yeah.
interesting that you say that. I have a client who very similar went through similar situation, lost everything except their primary home, kept their primary home,
hmm
and I guess he's 80, early 80s, and still working every day because he
mm,
lost so much and doesn't have the time to build it all back. Doesn't have that
yeah.
gusto. So you are exactly right. You hit the jackpot of worst case scenarios.
hmm hmm And I was young enough to like still be able to physically go back and work on a roof,
Yeah.
you know, and go work on an oil rig and stuff. You know what's so crazy is my dad, who was like 40 in his late 40s at the time, he went with me and worked on the oil rig. We were working together and he was in his late 40s. Of course, he roofed houses till he was 45, till I got him off the roof and into real estate. He was out there out roofing everybody, you know, the 18-year-olds, the 22-year-olds that were out there. He was laying more shingles and metal than they were. So I got good genes.
I love it. I love it. Ricky, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, thank you,
Hmm
thank you. It has been a pleasure spending some time with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to be Glenda's guru. So,
Oh, thank
Ricky,
you so
tell them
much.
where they can find you.
Hey, the best place is Instagram. That's the best place to kind of like click the link and see all the stuff I got going on, whatever trainings I have going on, whatever weeks, and DM me and communicate and stuff like that, and see content and everything. That's really the best place at
Okay.
Ricky Carruth.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that you have an amazing day.
Thank you so much, Glenda.